I'm about to play you an interview that I did for 2XX Radio. It's an interview with an organization called Mentoring Men. And they have an appeal going on at the moment. They need some cash quite desperately, but there's a number of solutions that they have to it. And one of the biggest things that they're asking for is your influence. It's hard to explain. There's money sitting in government coffers, which Mentoring Men is eminently um, entitled to or meets the requirements for to get that money. But they're having problems getting in touch with the politician that can unlock those funds. So this interview, it's about mentoring men, it's about the work that they do, but it's also about asking how you can help them survive, thrive, get better, be stronger, all those sorts of things. And the biggest thing that they're asking for is people's influence. It's really, really interesting. I've never actually had an interview quite like this one. When I asked what they needed from the listeners, I was expecting the normal sort of, oh, yeah, we need donations, go here to donate. But more than that, they need influence. They need people to advocate on their behalf. So have a listen to the interview. If you have any connections, please reach out. Talking to Phil from Mentoring Men is always a pleasure. It's a great interview. Like, share, and subscribe. If you would, it'd help out Mark My Words. But otherwise, check out this interview with Phil from Mentoring Men. We need you. Welcome to Mark My Words. Mark My Words is the story of my journey from a place where I was shattered to where I could live again. Warning. Mental illness education and you is the lived experience stories of people affected by mental illness and may contain descriptions of depression, suicide, addiction, and or abuse. Welcome back to another episode of Mental Illness Education and You, or Me and You. We have got a friend of the show who has come back. I'm not going to give you too much information about him because that's his job. I'd like to welcome back Phil from Mentoring Men. G'day, mate. How's it going?
Good, thank you, Mark. Thank you so very much for having me on again.
Well, I'm excited that we've gotten you back so quickly. People can still listen to our episode from a couple of weeks ago. However, for the people just tuning in, what is Mentoring Men? What is it that you do? And bear in mind, it's one of my favorite organizations that I've been able to chat to this year. So I'm not going to undersell it because I love what you do. What is Mentoring Men and what do you do?
Thank you, Mark. It's too kind. Look, at Mentoring Men, it's in its most simplistic form is that we provide free one-to-one life mentoring for men across the country. And so what that means is that we connect blokes who need to just have a chat with someone, with other blokes within their community or within their wider community that have the appropriate skills to be able to be there and to listen and to journey alongside that other man.
Now, there's a lot of organizations that are doing something similar, but I know that Mentoring Men is unique in that the mentoring system is somewhat formalized. It's not a haphazard thing. Somebody doesn't just put up their hand and you go, great, here's somebody to mentor, have fun. You've got a structured plan around helping to connect men that would like to be a mentor and men that would like to be mentored. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. It's there's a bit of a process both from the mentee's perspective and also the mentor's perspective. The very start of that process is when those expressions of interests or applications are submitted through to us, is that our team will really try and understand both the mentor and mentee. get to know, when we're not trying to understand, a massive deal about them, but get to know those basics, those fundamentals in them, because that helps us inform then who we might match them to, and understanding that there's a whole host of different factors, whether it's be lived experience, age, demographic, culture, right down to just shared interests. If they like the same footy team, well, then there's a basis there that might help them connect, rather than just meeting a stranger that you have nothing in common with.
And I would imagine that that would be a fear that some people have out there. They're listening to this going, wow, I couldn't just suddenly become a mentor for somebody, but it's something I'd like to do. That's where mentoring men steps in. Yeah.
That's it. So for both sides of that story, right? So for someone, for a mentor, whether the beyond that interview stages, there is quite a rigorous training that our mentors have to go through and have to pass. But and so part of that training process is equipping them with the skills needed to be able to hold that mentoring relationship or hold those conversations. And as you journey along your that relationship, there's always opportunities to seek further support and guidance from the mentoring team in any case. And so, sorry, go on.
No, no, please. I cut you off.
Oh, I was going to say, and on the flip side, for the mentees, what that gives them is it gives them a mentor that has those skills. So to go, oh well, I'm just going to catch up with someone I don't know. Who starts the conversation? What do I say? That awkward first interaction. Well, our mentors have the skills to break that ice.
Yeah. This might seem like a weird question, but say I'm connected with a mentor and for some reason it just doesn't click. For whatever reason. I would imagine that there's hosts of reasons why people wouldn't click. It's not like you're going to be cast to the wind and it's like you've failed our program or anything, is it? You're very human based with mentoring men.
Yeah, that's a good shout. So our matching process is pretty good. So of course, we're working with people, and so inevitably it's just the nature of people get along, other people don't. There could be no reason besides just a gut feel. For the most part, that doesn't happen a whole deal. I think we're sort of like a 85% success, like successful match
Wow.
is how we would consider it. But that's 85%. There is still a percentage that isn't successful. And that's normal and that's okay. And it's merely just getting on the phone going, hey, guys, I've caught up with Mark, top bloke, but I'm just not sure he's the bloke for me. And we'll start again. And that's totally okay. And it's twofolded too, right? Like this is a two-way relationship. So it's not just if the mentee feels comfortable with the mentor also has to feel comfortable with their mentee.
Yeah. I know I asked you last time. I am going to reiterate or repeat this because I was quite surprised. I Men are hard to break out of our comfort zone, especially when it comes to, hey, I want to try and have a friend. So there's many ways that people can nominate to learn more about mentoring men. And just because they call you doesn't mean that you're going to be thrown into a mentor mentee relationship. That's all part of the process. But I understand that you actually have wives, girlfriends at times nominating their blokes.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the whole community, right? So we'll have, yeah, whether it's the partner, the wives in their lives, the sisters, the colleagues, in the notion of females reaching out. Yeah, we get that. We'll get phone calls going, hey, look, I'm a bit worried about Phil. I reckon if one of you guys could give Phil a call, that might help. So those referrals from family and friends come through as well.
Now, you mentioned at the beginning of the show that this is a free service. The problem with a free service is it's got to get paid for somehow. And you're a not for profit, non government. And I understand that you've had to undertake a bit of fundraising at the moment.
Yes, it's you're dead right. It's the realities of life, I guess. We try to deliver this free for everyone. And over the last 6 years, we've connected well over 3,000 blokes from across the country. But that costs money. And so we're typically, the majority of our funding that we receive is from government funds. And unfortunately, come for 2025, we've found ourselves with a $300,000 shortfall in our projected funding. And that's because of shifting priorities within government. And so we're now faced with the stark reality that, being a small little charity, we just don't have that war chest of millions of dollars in the bank to be able to ride us out, for better days to come. So we've the men, our community, are really banding together, and one of the things that we're really initiating is empowering that spirit of the community, that underdog notion that is the fabric of so many Australian identity. Um, and our men are getting out there and they're rallying. They're hosting just trivia nights at their own house. They're getting on community radio. They're writing to their federal MPs. They're posting selfie videos on social media. They're talking to their employers, seeing if their employers might chip in and help out. And so, with that efforts, we've already raised, well, between raised and pledged, we've got a bit under $100,000, but we
which
still have a
is
long way to go.
which is an incredible amount for a not for profit. Like you said, yes, there is still a while to go, but it just shows the groundswell of support that you've been able to have that the the pledging and the donations of $100,000 so far. That speaks so highly of how people perceive the organization of mentoring men.
Yeah, it's one of the I've been sharing it a bit with people who, because I've stepped in as CEO in May, so this is a relatively new gig for me. And and so I wasn't blind to the fact that it's a small charity. You wear 500 hats, that's okay. But what dawned, like, what I wasn't prepared for was the burden of responsibility. And I say that in as much as we give men a place to belong. So many men are connected to mentoring men at a far deeper level, that this is their community. This is their place to belong. This is where they find hope and they see a future. This isn't an organization that just sells a product that will be replaced by somebody else tomorrow, or there's 500 other products on the market that you can buy from. People are emotionally connected to that. And so that toll weighs heavy. It's a big responsibility, but it is why we've been able to generate so much support, which is so reassuring in what we're trying to achieve here.
There is a staggering amount of statistics around male suicide, and we don't need to reiterate them here, but broken down relationships, disconnectedness, loneliness are some of the greatest drivers of that suicide epidemic that we have at the moment. It's not something that is kind of you don't stand up and wave the flag of suicide prevention, but it seems to be core to everything you're doing. And do you think that that's where some of that responsibility, that profound responsibility that you feel comes from?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, yes, right? Like, if you look at those social determinants, what we do ultimately aims to prevent suicide or male suicides across Australia. And the reality is, we know it does. We know it has for our men, because we hear those stories and we get those thank you messages to go, I don't know where I would have been if it wasn't for my mentor, if it wasn't for mentoring men. Um, and then, but beyond that, it's that preventative space. It's making sure and doing everything that we can to provide that space where men never even feel like they're anywhere near having any form of suicidal ideation. And that's critical.
So we've talked about the organization. We know that you're doing good things, but there's got to be some examples that you can give us about the relationships between mentors and mentees. What are some of the success stories that you like to share with people?
I think last time I was on the show, I shared one, so I won't share that one. Um, Another success story. Look, more broadly, one of the one like this is a repeating success story. So this story is shared across so many men. It's not just an individual that I'm thinking of. And what it is when we get mentees come into the program, men looking for someone to talk to, that after 12 months of having a mentor turn around and go, I now want to be a mentor for somebody else. And I think that's so powerful in building that, paying it forward and building resilience within community, which is what we try to do. And every time I hear and see those stories, that really inspires me to say this matters, and what we're doing works beyond the data and the outcomes that we obviously track. But um, I guess another story that came through not too long ago was a gentleman that um, didn't have a really good relationship with his brother, and it was his only living blood relative, and that for quite some time had been really weighing on him for years. And to receive that feedback from that gentleman to go, well, because of my mentoring relationship, because of the mentor that I've had, I've now been I'm now in a position where I can re-engage my brother and start to build a healthy relationship with him. And so he was saying that for years he hadn't spoken with his brother, and now he's got a relationship with him, and that came through the support that he got through mentoring.
Isn't it funny how just I keep thinking about empowered men, men that have had the opportunity to learn how to do this, to have constructive conversations, to have truthful, honest, heartfelt communication, how much it must change them in other parts of their lives. They become, I would imagine, better men all round. And I think you've highlighted what I see. This was my next question, but you highlighted it in that example of what happens once you get a man that's been able to be built up and learn some skills and that sort of thing. It's just incredible that that was the example that you used, because that was what I was next going to ask.
Well, yeah, that's it, right? Like it's the ripple down effect. It's you support that one individual man. By virtue, you support their family. By virtue, you support their friends. You support their wider community. You support their employer. They and we actually had a report there on loneliness, and I can't remember the exact statistic, which is bothering me because it's not coming to mind. I should have a spreadsheet of all the stats behind my screen, but I don't. Sorry. Um, but one of the things was that as a result of mentoring, and it was an exponential number. It annoys me, but I don't want to quote something that's not accurate. Was that they were more likely to engage in community activities. So get back into sporting clubs, get back into, I don't know, the local men's shed, the school fete, but to get actively engaged in their local community. and there was a direct correlation between mentoring and our program and then their involvement in the wider community.
There might be people out there that are almost, see, I don't like talking about giving fatigue, especially when it comes to men's health. So what I love about mentoring men is that you fit into a really unique notch in the mental health spectrum. And we love organizations like Are You OK Day and Movember and those kind of things. And I love that mentoring men doesn't see itself as unique in this space, but you are doing a unique thing. But you're one of many. And it's why I didn't hesitate when I heard that you were doing fundraising. It's why I didn't hesitate, because of the uniqueness what you do and the proven track record that you have.
Yeah, look, it's sort of to respond to that. I think it's twofold. Firstly, yeah, look, in terms of that one-to-one life mentoring for adult men across the country, we're very unique in that offering. But we also, I think it's important to celebrate all those other grassroots organisations, because ultimately we're working towards the same goals, we're advocating for the same outcomes to build a better future for tomorrow. And so if going for a collective walk resonates with someone, then go do it. You know, if getting out on a surf or meeting up in a shed or meeting at a table or whatever it is across all those different programs out there, go do it. If that resonates, they've got our support. And we know that what we do resonates with a whole host of other men as well. And so it's collectively, as a community, bringing what we can to the table, and I think that's so powerful and so critically important. Um, with us, I guess the frustrating thing is knowing the impact we have, knowing that realistically $300,000 is not a lot of money in the grand schemes of things. It is when you don't have the money, right? But in the grand schemes of things, it's not a lot of money. And we're in this silent crisis across Australia. You know, we're currently in November. We're currently in a month where men are growing their mows to show support for men's health and men's mental health. And here we are as an organization facing a very real existential crisis that if we don't raise this money, the reality is we can't trade insolvently. We will be facing a very hard decision come January 1st as to whether or not to shut down. Um, and so that's a daunting prospect, but I am filled with confidence and hope, given what I've spoken about before, in the sense of what our men are doing.
And as far as suicide prevention goes, men are still taking their lives every day. And you said something which you it made me it made me very thoughtful when I got off air. You said a word that I didn't really think of when I think about suicide, but I I think it's the most tragic thing about it is a suicide death is a preventable death.
Mm.
When somebody dies in a car accident or they have a disease or something like that, you can say that there's a reason. There was an accident. It was out of people's control. But when it comes to suicide, it's eminently preventable. And even though we've got these wonderful programs out there that are doing great things, there's still men that are taking their lives every day.
Yep.
And an organization like Mentoring Men just being one part of that puzzle, uh, to me, it seems like a no brainer. Um, I, like I said, mate, I believe in what you guys do.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, there is there's urgency. There really is urgency in what we do, and what other men's organisations do as well. Um, and there's an element of we probably don't need more research. We probably don't need more reports because all those researchers and all those reports show that exactly what we do is what the community needs. We're Australia's frontline prevention.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, we're Australia. I mean, to that point.
All right, so we've done the hard sell. We've pulled at the heartstrings. We've told some stories, but now we need to get to the nitty gritty. Now we've got a call to action.
Yeah.
If people have listened today and they've gone, you know what, that sounds like an organisation I can get behind. They'd like to support you. How can they go about donating some money?
Look, donations are huge. That's a big way that they can help, and they can just jump onto our website, which is mentoringmen.org.au, and there's a donate now button there. Um, but what potentially could be more impactful for us is if people are listening and have the ability to open doors and open windows and provide introductions, whether that be to corporates that might then consider sponsorships, or to anywhere else. We, being a small grassroots organization, we don't have the luxury of a nationally recognized brand or a brand that people talk about at the kitchen table. And so that advocacy for who we are and for what we're trying to achieve, that advocacy is just as important as a donation. And I guess what's more, Mark, is that one of the things that we're really advocating for at the moment with the Australian federal government is that there's actually unutilized funds of over $1 million sitting at a federal level that has been set aside for suicide prevention, that's not being used. And so we've been pushing very hard with Minister Mark Butler's office, the federal minister for health, to try and go, hey, look, the government doesn't need to find any money. You've already allocated the money. The money's sitting there. It's not being distributed. We will close. We don't like we're this isn't a joke. We're not crying wolf. Help, and is the simplest way. And so one of the things that our men are doing are they're writing to Minister Mark Butler's office and advocating on our behalf. And so, that again is just a really, really powerful thing, that advocacy beyond just direct donations that people could do.
Mentoring Men, it's an organisation that is helping men right across Australia, providing a free service of mentoring and being mentored. It's a proven success story. Canberra, if you can advocate, this is the city of public servants. If you know somebody, if you know a corporate, if anybody has any of those kind of connections, if they think, Phil, I might be able to help out, what's the best way for them to contact you? Is it through the website?
It is, yeah. So, I mean, if they call, so either through the website, they can email us as well, which is all there on the website, or they can call us, which is 1300 583 925.
Phil, mate, I cannot tell you how much I hope that the money comes through for you and that the people that are out there can make those connections so that, yeah, let's try and open those doors. Phil, mate, you're amazing. Your organization's amazing. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it.
If any of the stories you've heard today have affected you in any way, remember the most courageous thing to do is to reach out for help. The great people at Lifeline are available anytime on 13 11 14. Thank you for listening to Mark My Words. I'd like to thank my producer, Meredith Brosnan, and also Torian, Kevin, and Lorraine. And I can't forget the band Adelaide, who allows us to use their song as our theme.